everybody's mind that there's been a lot of praise for the Utah Compact. However, the ACLU has found reason to sue Utah for that. Would somebody care to comment on why the suit has been filed if there's so much praise afoot for the compact itself?
Sure, I'll comment on that. The ACLU,
brevity is always encouraged and appreciated.
Thank you. The ACLU has brought that because on the bill itself in Utah, perhaps you're in Arizona, I don't know your system here, but in Utah there is a constitutional note on that legislation that says there's a serious constitutional question as to its constitutionality. And that's because clearly the state of Utah is proposing to do things which are the province of the federal government, which we all recognize. No one's arguing with that. We wish to heck they do it. However, as Holly has indicated, they haven't. They've been the dog in the manger. If you're not familiar with that story, dogs don't eat hay, dog gets in the trough, and keeps the farm animals from eating it. So the federal government doesn't just say, we're not going to do anything about it. They say, you can't do anything about it either. Even though in Utah we have 110,000 illegal immigrants, in Arizona apparently a lot more than that. But the reason for the ACLU suit is on the basis of its being unconstitutional because it crosses the line over to federal province.
Mr. Williams, would you care to comment on
well, yeah, I think
497 immigration and HB 116 guest workers program?
Ask the question one more time.
Would you care to comment on HB 497, the immigration enforcement aspect of the bill, as well as HB 116, the guest worker program, which is what I believe of it?
Yeah, you know, I thought Eric Holder was correct in suing Arizona on 1070. He's now threatened to sue Utah and HB 116. I also think that's correct from a legal standpoint because it is a federal issue. I agree with Holly that it's important for the states to stir this up a little bit. I am opposed to many aspects of the Utah bill because it requires much more stringent registration. It reminds me of registering the Jews in World War II in Germany, frankly. And so I'm offended by that. I think that if you've got a roadblock, you unblock the road. You don't, to keep people from cutting through the neighborhood. You move the accident out of the way, and the federal government needs to do something. I don't like the enforcement provisions of the Utah Act, but I think it is a compromise that they've enacted to try to have something that works and get some dialogue started, and I think that's good.
Let me just mention 497 is the enforcement bill by Representative Sandstrom that was patted into Arizona. We only sort of jokingly say he self-reported from his own bill because he has gradually diluted it. However, that's what it is. ACLU has brought suit against that, as well as the HB 116. But there are 4 bills in the package, so we need to be careful to recognize it's not one big bill, it's four bills.
I always wondered why the ACLU didn't sue Arizona, because it's the same constitutional issue.
We did. They did.
Oh, they did? Okay, good.
Ms. Richardson, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, there's a question from one of the members here. Why isn't a member of the education community, adult education, included in the Utah Compact?
I'm sorry, why is a member of the education community what?
Why isn't a member of the education community included in the Utah Compact?
You know, that's probably better addressed by Stan. I actually wasn't involved in the formation of the Utah Compact, but I can tell you that it does have fairly broad support across the spectrum.
Stan, do you want to chime in on that one?
I wouldn't speculate. I think there are individual members as an organization, the State Board of Education, the Utah Education Association, to my knowledge, do not take a position on it one way or the other.
This is a pretty interesting question. It seems that more and more Hispanics are joining the Mormon Church. Is this a fact? And if so, to what extent does or did it influence the Mormon Church to support the Utah Compact?
There are more Spanish-speaking members of the Mormon Church right now than English-speaking members. It is heavily and predominantly Hispanic. And not heavily, maybe 60–65% is Hispanic. And I don't think that influenced the church other than the fact that it's a worldwide church, the fastest growing church in the world. Any of you who want to find a church that makes sense, it's the Mormon Church, you can come join. And so do I think that has an influence? Of course, because the church takes the perspective we're all God's children, we're all brothers and sisters. So I do think it has an influence and it affects the church.
Thank you. Here's another one. I'm going to throw this out to anyone on the panel. Would there be value in terms of furthering the issues discussion and putting an Arizona compact forward as a ballot initiative in 2012? Would there be dangers? So if there's some pros and cons of putting that on the ballot for 2012, an Arizona quote-unquote compact?
Well, I can't speak for Arizona, but the Utah Compact was a statement of guiding principles. I suspect it could be put on a public ballot, but it's not even a resolution. It's just a framework of recommended principles to provide context for those discussions.
I think it makes no sense to put things like this on a public ballot because it's too complicated. And public ballots are issues that need to be much more simple than that. In fact, I'm opposed in Arizona to much of the public ballot initiatives that we have. You have a legislature to make considered decisions, and they should be doing it. I'm personally, right. Yeah. But you need to pay them well enough that you get people there who can find Canada on the map.
Thank you for the humor you bring up. Very comforting. Darrell Williams, this is tongue-in-cheek, I would think, but I'll read it nevertheless. Do you have a fence in your backyard? If so, why and what does God think about that?
I don't have a fence in my backyard. I live on the mountain preserve in Paradise Valley, and the rabbits and the fox and the coyotes can freely come in and out of my backyard.
Representative Richardson, want to bring into this conversation. We appreciate your patience. How do you balance enforcement with conservative concepts of liberty? How do you balance enforcement with conservative concepts of liberty?
Is that a question for me?
Yes. Yes. Bring you into the fold here. Do you have an opinion about that?
Let me
lost you there for a second. I think one of the things that, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. I think one of the things that we look at, and I think that you're quite correct, is that as we crack down on enforcement, we do lose liberties. And it was Benjamin Franklin who said you cannot trade neither, and deserve neither. So what we try to balance as we look at this, especially from a conservative legislature, is what's the appropriate role of government, limited government, free markets? Is it the role of government to step in and say you can or cannot hire this person? In Utah, we believe we're a right-to-work state, that people have the right to work, and that employers have the right to hire the people that they choose. But the federal government is telling us there's this whole subset of population that you cannot hire. So certainly that's one thing that we look at. There are certainly legislators that we had that hate the E-Verify component in here and feel like if we have an E-Verify component, what you're saying is 97 to 99% of the people who will be using E-Verify are U.S. citizens, and then you're saying, show me your papers. Show me your papers as a citizen. So we're trying to balance with, if you are convicted or pulled over, accused of higher order crimes, felonies, Class C misdemeanors, then asking your legal status as far as immigration is concerned is something where we're willing to say, okay, you already had another crime committed. Otherwise, we want to allow the free market to work. We want to allow liberty and freedom and prosperity, and realize at the same time that we need to try and find a balance. And it is a very delicate dancing act that we're trying to do right now.
Thank you very much for that answer. Given the very conservative nature, this is open to anybody on the panel, given the very conservative nature of the Arizona legislature, what would you suggest the concerned people of Arizona do to reach the legislators?
Well, here's the thing. This is an educational process. The problem with Athenian democracy, and if you're a follower of Benjamin Constant and his political philosophies rather than Alexis de Tocqueville, you believe in this Athenian democracy where legislatures put their finger to the wind and they vote that direction to get them elected. What we need is legislators who think. And so we need to and we've got kind of a quasi-Athenian democracy in Arizona and the United States now because of the 17th Amendment. But what we need to do is we need to inform those legislatures, because if they know the wind is blowing this way, that's the way they're going to vote. And so we need to get out there and work and educate these people, because I've talked to some legislators before and they need education.
We're down to about 4 minutes, so we really have a little longer.
I think the conference that you're doing today, bringing information, data, perspective, hopefully that will serve to the objective that Mr. Williams mentioned, to educate. But you need to engage. We're past the point where we can watch the news and be frustrated and kick the dirt. We need to engage and pick up the phone, call our legislators, talk to our city council people, county leaders, and make clear where we are on it. I can assure you that in Utah, there is a very strong pushback on the spirit of the Utah Compact and HB 116 and that package of bills that were passed by 25% of the population. They are a very loud, shrill, table pounding 25%, and it's that 66% that hopefully we're equipping with information and purpose to engage the process more proactively, and that has to be done anywhere.
No, I have to say this. That's why I'm here. For 35 years, I've been practicing law, keeping my head down in the trenches, standing in front of juries. When this happened a year ago, I said, that's it. I need to talk. I need to speak. So that's why I'm here. We all need to rise up and do this. Yes.
Any parting words, Ms. Richardson? Was there giving me all kinds of signals in the back telling me to cut it. So any parting words for us?
You know, I appreciate the willingness for everybody to come and have the discussion and the dialogue. Stan mentioned that it's been pretty heated. I may be a one-term legislator because I was willing to stand up and say, look, I, as a conservative, can support this program moving forward. And it's made me a target. But we need to have more and more people saying we need to look at solutions, and if we're not able to do it on a state-by-state basis, by golly, the federal government better step up and do their job.
Any parting words, gentlemen?
I would just suggest that it's very important to step back. There's a lot of discussion about how we respond to symptoms, a lot of hacking at the limbs, as it were. Ask yourself, what is the problem? With respect to immigration, what is the problem? I would submit that we do not have a functional mechanism whereby legitimate legal immigration can unfold today. We are a nation of immigrants. There are two fundamental realities. Human beings want to improve their situation for themselves and their family. And the American economy has always been a voracious engine. Holly used a metaphor, I'll use one of my own. Like a wood stove, you close the door, it's still going to find a way to get oxygen into it. And our economy has always required people who are not in the United States to operate. I used to say we don't have a door, a front door, and liken it to what we have as a pet door. It's a lot smaller than that. And it's got rusty hinges and it's not working. And so we do not have a functional mechanism to facilitate legitimate, necessary immigration. That's what we've done in Utah. We recognize there are constitutional questions, but what we're saying is we can't just sit back and hold our breath and mother may I and hope for the best. We have to be doing something to address the needs. And one of the ironies for me is that some of the 10th Amendment, state sovereignty, balanced federalism folks in Utah are some of those voices pushing back saying, oh, it's got a constitutional question about it. The same folks that are suggesting that, well, really, we ought to be able to put a fence around Utah when it comes to Obamacare and other things.
We're going to bring to a close that which has no actual close in the interest of time. I want to thank Mr. Stan Rasmussen, Representative Holly Richardson, and Attorney Doug Williams for their acute remarks and their insightful remarks, and I hope that they have allowed us to better understand that it makes no sense for us to become angry if we're not able to translate that anger into real action. So we thank you for that inspiration.